Hello to all my friends who are wanting to build financial freedom. Today we're going to go over more of the dividend portfolio. We're going to quantify some things because here's the thing is you can actually begin to predict where you're going to end up with your dividend strategy. And we're going to look at some of the numbers. It was once said that when it comes to finances, when it comes to long term retirement, financial freedom, whatever you want to call it, financial behavior is 80% behavior and 20% math. Because I can show you the math. I can show you the math how this all works out, but I can't make you take the steps. And that's why I talked about before setting up recurring investments in an app like Robinhood where you can say, hey, buy $5 of this stock, buy $10 of this stock every month or every week. That is the set it and forget it attitude that we want to do with this stuff. I can't tell you what you're able to budget, but I can tell you that the sooner that you start and the sooner you more aggressively go into this, the bigger the payoff, the sooner the payoff, really the bigger the payoff because the way that the dividends compound, the sooner you want to start this. It is amazing to me the difference between being frugal for a while, driving an older vehicle and not getting a new vehicle, and what it can do for your finances when you're 40, 45, 50, 60 years old. It's very different. So we're going to quantify some of this. This is the dividend portfolio I have right now. And we will go through some of the math. I'm sharing this because I want to show people that you can do it. And since the last video, I aggressively, as much as I could, aggressively increased a bunch of these positions. And I'm going to share the dividends as they come in. And if you want to copy what I'm doing, I have most of these on auto buys, but I also put in some chunks of things. I don't know if the risky position here is this MSTY, which is a special type of stock. I'm probably not going to buy any more of this than I have, but I wanted to see what it would do. It's kind of speculative. So let's see. SPYI. So I'll go through each one of these real quick. SPYI, S&P 500 dividend. The yield on this is 12.98. And like I said, I'll zoom in a little bit. You have to minus off the expense ratio from the yield. But to do this quick and dirty, I'm just going to round these out. So yield on SPYI is 12%. Make this nice and big. So these are yields. Um, I'll show you at MSTY TY, although I don't recommend, I like overall, I do not recommend it, especially if you're starting out. This is a very weird, speculative, um, option strategy. So I'm not going to include it, but the yield is 124%, but this is like an experimental something. I think I have $100 in it. So, um, okay, we should just, yeah, we should just delete that off of uh, the thing here because it's going to throw off our averages. JEPQ, JEPQ. This one is 11.23% minus the expense ratio. We'll call it 10 and a half. These are the dividend amounts. So you put in $1,000 in 1 year, it'll pay back 10%. QQQI. And these are usually top 500, top 100 largest companies. This is 15.3% minus the expense ratio. We'll call it 14%. It's fine. Oops. Call it 14%. Now these are also weighted in the portfolio differently. Jeppy's really popular one. Look that one up. Yield is 7.79. We'll call it 7%. So this is like free money, but at the same time, there's no such thing as free money, right? So the one that I got rid of was 124% yield. But it's very experimental, very risky. Typically, the higher the yield, the higher the risk. But these are large indexed funds, so I feel like these are essentially no risk. That's just a feeling that I have. Don't take it to the bank. This is not financial advice. But if you do live frugal, put the money that you would spend on random crap into these and build yourself a dividend snowball. Last one is Clause, CLOZ. This one's supposed to be very stable. We did have a dip from, I guess, basically like the tariff scares or whatever, but basically stays right around 26 bucks. This was the inception of the fund, but it's going to stay around this area. Expense ratio 0.5. The yield is 8.6, so we'll just call it 8.8%. So we have a bit of a spread here, but so if we take these yields and we get the average, we can see what we're getting. So let's calculator. So what we're going to do is we'll take 12%. I think we're going to do 12% plus 10.5 plus 14% plus 7% plus 8%. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks. Divide that by 5 and we get our average. So our average is 10.3%. And I've been as aggressively as I can, increasing the holdings in all of these. And I think we're up to, so it's about 650 in one and then 1500 in the other. These are two different accounts that I've combined. 650, 1500. So the count is up to 2150. And right now, my auto payments, I'm adding, I think it's adding 60, 120, 240 a month. I am adding extra when I can. And we're almost halfway through the year. Um, and starting or next month, a lot of these payments will come in. They usually come in about the first week of the month. So this is our current total balance, and this is down here. This is what I'm adding per month. So let's go to our dividend calculator. Again, there's a few different ones. Um, Actually, what we want compound interest calculator. Compound interest calculator. This is one of the simplest ones. There are other ones that get a little bit more complex. We'll just take the simplest one from investor.gov, compound interest calculator. And so, just to quantify this to see where we're going to get in a few years, let's say we kept up what we're doing, um, 240 a month. Oh yeah, one more thing you can do. So commonly they say to save 10% of your paycheck. That's what a lot of advice is. So to do that, I mean, take your, yeah, whatever your paycheck is per month, maybe it's 2,800 a month, and then we're going to do times 0.1. That's 10%. So 10% of your pay, saving 10% of your paycheck would be $280 a month. It's pretty close to what I'm doing here. Right now I'm saving $240 a month. But yeah, if your paycheck is 3,800 a month, so I'm going to do 0.1 or multiplied by 0.1, you could be saving $380 a month if you're doing 10% of your paycheck. Um, so that's how you would calculate that. So this asks initial investment. So right now in the account, I believe it's 2,150. $2,150. Monthly contribution. These are all my auto pays, not including anything extra I put in from, maybe like taking an Uber shift or something like that, picking up a shift at DoorDash. But my auto pays coming out of just paycheck, 240 a month. Length of time in years, so let's do 30 years. Estimated interest rate. So I'm going to go a little more conservative with this, but these are the yields. These yields is interest rate. So there's a 12%, 10.5%, 14%, 7%, and 8% across these. And we said it's an average of, it's about an, well, let's do the average again. What's the average of all of these? Of course they're weighted, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So 12 plus 10.5 plus 14 plus 7 plus 8 divided by 5. So about 10%. I'm going to go even more conservative. Um, and I'm going to say 9.5 for our calculator. We could put in a 10% estimated interest rate. I would rather end up with more money than I expected than less. So I'm going to put 9.5 for our expected interest rate. This is our yield percentage. The variance, this lets you put in a variance. We'll do 0.5% variance so we can see what the 10% would be. Compound frequency. So all of these pay every month. There are some dividend stocks that pay 4 times a year. It doesn't change any of these calculations, but it does change the compound frequency. If it was 4 times a year, you would choose quarterly. Um, if you have a mix of these, you could do them separately and add them up or something like that, but it's not going to make a massive difference. If you do daily, that could change some things, but we're just going to do monthly. That's going to be fine. These are just estimates, right? And calculate. So this says in 30 years, you will have 524,000. And the variance above, so that's for our 9.5%. And as I showed you, it's cool to see what your income would be at certain years. So, for example, right now with the 2,150 I have in there, 2,150, I can multiply that by our yield, by a 10% yield, and that will get us our yearly and monthly income. So 2,150 times 10% yield, $215 a year. So right now, with the current system I have, it will be paying back. This is the making money while you sleep, paying back $17.90 per month for the next calendar year. I should be getting this for the next 6 months. And the principal shouldn't really go down. That is the point of these types of funds. So this is saying we're going to have 53,000 at year 10. So if we take 53,000 times, we'll do conservative, we'll do the 9.5% yield. That's $5,000 a year or $419 a month. So you can see how important it is to start this type of thing soon or early. And by year 30, we'll have 500,000. Now let's run this one more time with if you were a little bit more aggressive on your monthly contribution, because $240 a month for a long time for your average like household income is low. Let's say it was $500 a month, and we'll keep everything else the same. So now you're at $1 million. And by the way, this growth, this is much faster. This is much more than if we had only been saving $500 a month. So let's, like, for example, let's put the interest rate at 0.1. So, we'll just put in 1. If our interest rate was only 1, or our yield, um, we would have $200,000. If we saved $500 a month for 30 years, we'd have $200,000. But this is the power of the interest rate and the compound growth, is we're still saving the same amount. We're still saving $500 a month, but you see the curve. The curve in the chart is showing you'd end up with $1,000,000. And that is the place that we want to be, right? Because let's pick year 29, 900,000. So 950,000 times 0.095 interest rate. That's $90,000 a year, or $7,000, $7,520 a month. Yes, we would have to take income tax off of that, but this is the numbers if you did something aggressive like this. And if you're 20 years old and you did this for the next 30 years, even at year 29, if you just stopped at that point, you would be making $90,000 a year for doing nothing, right? This is how being frugal adds up over a long period of time. If you start later, you can still say, okay, if I have 10 years to do this, let's pick year 10. This is saying at year 10, we've got $105,000. Let's do times our 9.5%. So this is still bringing in $9,000 a month, or a year, divided by 12, $830 a month. So this could supplement a Social Security income or other types of income. And these are other strategies to, if you end up getting some kind of inheritance someday, some other monetary windfall, someone, you sell a business or something. If you end up with a large chunk of money, so you got an inheritance of $500,000, we can run that. 500,000 times 0.095, our yield interest rate is $47,000 a year, or almost $4,000 a month. Yeah, we have to take income taxes off of that, but you get the idea. Instead of just saying, well, what can I do with $500,000? Should I buy a Mercedes? Should I buy a Porsche? Whatever people think, oh, what can I buy with this? What I want you to do is think, what can $200,000, whatever it is, instead of saying what big purchase can I buy with this, I want to ask the question, what type of income can I generate with this? That's the question we want to ask. And if we build it up over time, we saw what $500 a month for 30 years could do. If we build it up over time, it will start to generate more and more and more. So those are some of the numbers, and I'll share the dividend payments as they come in, and thanks for being here.